Hi, everyone. This is John from AU Pack Mule, and I'm here for day 13 of 30 on our live streams with the 10 random book questions. Today's guest is none other than the first ranter from the Hypes Watch. Obviously, a super successful YouTuber on the all of the reaction videos that she's done, Game of Thrones videos that she's done. And I'm really pleased to welcome Tinker Jaso. Tinker, would you like to say hi to everybody and let us know what's going on with your video and what you're working on?
Hello everyone, I'm delighted to be here doing a video with Packmule, and you actually said it correctly. You say Tinker Jaso. Most people say Tinker Jaso or something of the other. But you said it correctly. And I'm really looking forward to doing this video, and let's get this started.
Yeah, you did a Q&A video on Sunday that was live, and I love the fact that you got a little technical problems because it works you up. It really gets you more passionate than you normally are, which is pretty cool.
Oh my God, YouTube, for all the great things that YouTube has, sometimes it's an absolute pain in the ass when it wouldn't let me go live. I was there at like 99% and it was just nothing. And I'm like, I'm sorry everyone, but it's just, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to go live or do anything. It's just very frustrating.
Yeah, it happens to all of us from time to time. If you do as many videos, I think you have over 200 videos and 6,000 subscribers, just amazing. Congratulations on all of that hard work. It's really quite an accomplishment. And you also work with Clash of Queens. I don't mean to leave them out because that's a great group of ladies that do fantastic work on your chapters.
Yes, we're trying to get back together. The scheduling sometimes can be a bit of a pain.
Trust me, I know.
Yes, but we're trying to do the next one, hopefully this month, because I'm really looking forward to it. I like it when it's the three of us. And also the research, it's nice because these books are very big and very hard. And I've got a thing that the things that I love, I remember perfectly, but the chapters and the characters that I don't love a lot, they just I start forgetting. And I have to go back to remember because they're very big. You can't remember everything. And with all the other things that I follow, there's just sometimes that I'll go back. I'm like, oh my God, I've completely forgotten about this character.
Right.
And the rereads that I do with the Hypes Watch and these questions that I do with the Clash of Queens, it makes me go back and reread. I'm like, oh yes, now I remember. I've got a thing which is just when I'm with a lot of things, I forget stuff. And it forces me to go back to the books, reread things that I hadn't read in a long time, and remember things that I'd completely forgotten. So it's very nice. It's like discovering the books again, which I always enjoy.
Yeah, anytime you get a chance to review the material in a way that you're literally studying, it's pretty cool. So one of the things I like about your reviews is the Beauty and the Beast, because that's like my favorite long time Disney movie. I mean, it's just fantastic. I still can sing all the songs. And for my daughter, we used to watch it 10 times a day, that kind of stuff. The other one was Captain America is Hydra. When you read that, I think literally the top of your head must have blown off. And then the other one for fun was Sausage Party, because you're like, is this really a movie? I thought that was great too. Are you you said you were concerned about the Beast and the way that it's filmed, but if you look at all the other cast, I think they've done such a great job with the trailer that I think you'll agree that March 17th is going to be a great day.
It is. It's going to be a fantastic day, and I have every intention of being there on the first day that it's gonna come out. And I think the cast is absolutely fantastic, and I think everything else looks absolutely great. It's just, I think that sometimes there's some things that look fantastic in animation, but they're very hard to translate into real life, into live action. And I think the Beast worked very well in animation, and I think they had trouble, because his face doesn't look human in the animation. but they wanted to bring a bit of that humanity to the live action, and it's become something strange. The face is like a bit human, but the rest is clearly not, and it's just, I don't know if it's the special effects that are completely finished or that is just not doing it for me, but the beast, like how he looks, is the only thing that is worrying me about the movie. Everything else, I'm absolutely thrilled, because The Beauty and the Beast is also my favorite Disney movie. I love it. I've got the entire soundtrack. And I love
Nice.
all the songs. So I'm really looking forward to it, especially because they've said that they're gonna add a few new songs.
Nice.
So it's not only gonna be seeing what we already know we're gonna get, but the new things that we're gonna get. So I'm excited.
Yeah, if you go to my Instagram page, you'll see one of my pictures is with my daughter in front of Gaston's pub at Disney World. One of my favorites. It's just, like I said, it's just so much fun.
The only thing that actually worries me has actually nothing to do with the movie. It has to do with the fact that I'm in Spain, and is that I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to find a single screen that is not dubbed.
Right.
And
You
seeing
were
that
mentioning that in your Q&A, how
dubbed,
difficult it is. Right?
yes, and seeing that dubbed, oh, if I cannot find it undubbed, it's going to be that's going to hurt me.
You're gonna have to go to London.
Don't tempt me. Don't tempt me. Oh my God.
So Renee M in the chat asked what's on March 17th, and that's the release date for The Beauty and the Beast, the new edition. So that's from Disney. Looking forward to that, both all of us. And I do want to say thanks again for everybody in the chat, everybody that's going to watch this later. But right now we've got Sam Sand, we've got Thunderclaps here, of course, Lav, Renee, and I say of course because I just love that you're here all the time. Jay Cruz is here. Biotic Flux. Renee M. T. Baby is in the house. Love it.
Another Clash of Queens. We have to do another one soon, T.
Septa Shayna's here. Great questions that Septa's brought in, so I appreciate that. And one of the other reaction video persons that is on YouTube right now is Broke Black Man 94. He does a lot of great, and then he reaction videos, but he also does Star Wars videos. And if you guys like any of that, go check it out. Broke Black Man 94. Love watching him and really enjoy his stuff. And anytime he's on my channel, he always gets kudos. So thanks. So I hope I didn't miss anybody in the chat, but if I did, Cheeky Heart is here. Thanks for being here, man. Appreciate that. So the first question is on Game of Thrones, if you're ready, because this is off the cuff for all of you that are watching live and later on. Tinker has no idea what I'm going to ask her other than that it's book related, Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire. So you ready, Tinker?
Yes, go ahead.
So the first one's pretty easy, but it's fun. It's what is your favorite theory on the Game of Thrones that you've ever worked on?
Favorite that I've worked on or heard or?
Yeah, either one.
One. Just I've heard so many that at this point my mind is like okay, one that just one that I was very convinced mainly because I heard someone, sometimes that you love a theory especially because you've heard someone else that doesn't agree, and for some reason you're like, no, but it's so obvious. And it was one of the ones who I started before this went crazy, or before I realized how crazy all of this got. That before you realize what you've gotten into and you first discover the craziness that is Game of Thrones, the first thing that the first theory that I encountered, which is I think the first theory that most people encounter, is the one about Jon being a Targaryen. It's the first one that when I originally read the books, and I was like, oh, look at this, before the theory started, before the insanity started, before I discovered the whole community that it was. And I was like, oh, look at this that I've discovered. And then I came and I discovered that everyone else also had that theory, or that there was 1,000 theory that went against it. For example, Don Willie doesn't believe that theory. He has that other crazy theory that John is Asharadin's son. And I was like, what? No, and she did a very convincing theory, that a video that I saw that annoyed me because it was very convincing, but went against what I thought, which is why I felt so nice when they confirmed it in the show, although who knows, that might not happen in the books. But it was the first one, which is why it's close to my heart, because it's that the first theory that you come up with, the first thing that you discover with the books, it's the one that has, closest to my heart. It was like the first time that I felt like, oh, look, I've discovered something in these books. So it's not great, not anymore, and everyone has theorized. There's 1,000 videos about it by now, and 1,000 videos that also go against it, and they've kind of sort of said that it was correct in the show, although I don't know if, because the show, at this point, we can all agree that the show has diverged to a point in which who the hell knows if what they're showing is actually gonna happen in the books. We don't really know at this point if what they're showing now is gonna happen. But that's why that one is the closest one to my heart, because it was my very first before I entered this community, and the very first that I was like, oh, look, I've discovered something, which is why I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, because I think it's incredibly important to the name of the whole series, the Song of Ice and Fire. I don't know if you agree, but
it is. Which is why with the name, I was like, ooh, it even fits the name. It's just, I felt very excited and very proud of myself the first time. And then I went and looked it up, and I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one.
Darn it. You wanted to own that franchise.
Darn it. I'm a bit late to this party.
Yeah, for sure. There's a ton of them out there, like you said, and because that was in the very first book, it makes sense that one would be the one that you're most passionate about. And the fact that you think that you worked that out to begin with is pretty incredible.
And it's gotten to the point also that once they started, you start reading all of these theories. And there was a point in which I decided that I was not seeing a single more video about theories, and that I was gonna finish all the books, and then I was gonna go back and see all the crazy theories people had come up with, because I was going nuts. I would see a theory like, ooh, that makes sense, and then I'd see another one that was completely the opposite, and I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. And then you start theorizing about everything. I remember in the rereads, we would do the rereads, and they were like, look at this, and then like, you see this, he did this and I'm like, there cannot be a hidden message in every word, in every sword, in everything. It cannot be, simply because no one has the brain power to have so much details, not even with all the time he takes for these bloody books. And I was at the end like, okay, no more theories. Finish the books and then go back. Those theories are always going to be there, even if it's 10 years in the future, which at this point is what it looks like it's going to take for the next 2 books to publish. If he doesn't die first, please, God, do not let him die before he finishes those books. That is my biggest worry. Come on, I cannot be the only one who's worried about this.
I would certainly mourn the George R.R. Martin passing. Much more so than I would mourn the fact that the books weren't written. But yeah, I agree. It would be nice to have that series finished. But in my opinion, I don't think it'll ever be finished, because he's always going to continue the Fire and Blood series and the Dunk and Egg series, and even possibly converting the Westworld into the Game of Thrones, and on and on and on. I don't think his creative mind will ever stop. Just like Tolkien.
That's the expanded world. I need the Song of Ice and Fire to come to a conclusion. Then he can keep, for example, if people have seen my videos, sometimes I can be a bit extreme.
A little.
And when I realized that he was writing other books while he hasn't finished this one, it annoyed me a tad bit. And I know that some people are delighted and happy and thrilled, but I'm not good at patience. I'm not good. It's one of my worst qualities. I'm terrible at patience. And having a book and then not knowing where it's going and not getting that, it drives me nuts. So I've decided that I will not buy a single other book from him until he finishes his series. The next book that I'm gonna buy is gonna be the next one from I haven't read a single Dunk and Egg one. I've managed. I actually have it, but I forced myself not to read it. Well, one of this, but I'm not. I've decided that I'm not buying a single thing until the next book, until the spring one is coming.
Oh, the Dream of Spring. Oh my goodness. Dream of Spring. So that's going to be another 5 years.
I know. Then I'll buy the rest of his book and then I'll devour them all. But I refuse to read anything else until he gives me the rest.
Shout out to JD. The dragon in the house just came in. Thanks for being here, man.
Oh, hello, JD.
So I think you're pretty hyped on the Oberyn Martell character, right?
Oh, I love him.
Yeah.
And I loved how he was portrayed in the show. It's one thing of the show that I'm very, very thankful. They did him right.
Well, they did him wrong, but in a right way, right?
Well,
I mean,
yes.
he's not Hispanic.
Well, they kind of don't describe, like, they do describe that the Martells they're kind of darker skinned.
Yep.
That they've got the mixture from the Roinar. Is that how you pronounced it?
Mm-hmm.
The Roinar. So that there was a mix. So he was supposed to have, he was supposed to have something exotic and different about him. So that kind of sort of fit.
It definitely did.
And he had that passion and that outspokenness and that fuck everything that I imagined Oberyn would have.
Yeah.
That sneakiness and how showy and arrogant and just very confident he was, and that's what ended up getting him killed.
Yeah, one of the things that I think a lot of people liked him for was the fact that he didn't have any of the normal cliche-ish boxes that we live in, as far as him having a princess or a bride, and then him being loyal to that bride, if you know what I'm getting at. But with Cersei, she's almost identical in her pattern, but we just absolutely hate Cersei. And I just wondered why you think that is.
Well, I think he was loyal. I actually think that Oberyn was loyal, but he was loyal to what he said he was going to be loyal to. He had his paramour, but his paramour knew what he was getting with Oberyn. Oberyn never tells you one thing and gives you another, like, unless they're enemies. Like, he loved his daughters and they knew it, even if they had different mothers. When he slept with prostitutes, with a whore, whatever, you knew what you were getting with Oberyn. You would have a fantastic night or a few fantastic nights, and that was it. If you had a kid from him, he would take care of it and he would love it and they would become one of his kids. And with his paramour, she was very much like him. She still loved, she knew what he was getting. She had his love, and she was also not someone that was, only devoted to him and then he was a whoremonger. No, they went out, partied together, and he would promise you his heart and his loyalty, not to be his only bed partner, but then he didn't expect that from you either. There was a freedom to him and a loyalty that you would get that backing from him always, and that he would love you. While Cersei, is not. He would tell, he told Jamie a lot of things, that he was his only one, his twin, his whatever. And Jamie stayed completely faithful, believing that Cersei would be completely faithful, but Cersei wasn't. So she was supposed to be faithful emotionally to him, except to his husbands, because both of them knew that she had no choice on that. But she still cheated on him because emotionally she was supposed to be linked to Jamie. And she didn't tell him, it's not like they're like, well, since I have to be with my husband, you're free to do whatever you want. No. Cersei wanted him to have the white cape, so no one else would have Jamie except her. Except that she didn't limit herself either. When Jamie wasn't there, she used other people to get her way and to get her needs met. And then when Jamie came back and his hand was missing, and then things changed. She's selfish. While Oberyn is free, but also gives a lot of himself.
That's true.
He won't change himself because that's not who he is. He's a free, wild person. But he will give everything, for his sister, for Elia, to try to bring justice. He died.
Yeah, that's true. He definitely did give everything of himself, much more so than Cersei. I don't think she's made one unselfish decision. Would you?
No, and I think if the only one that she would do would be for her kids, which is the only thing that she ever really loves.
And that's even questionable if you think about it.
Yes.
Because if you give your kid candy every day, it doesn't really benefit them in the long term.
No, I think she cared about them, but the thing is that I don't think Cersei she's so selfish that I don't think she really knows how to care. She's all me, 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 me. Then maybe if she loves them, I don't think that she would know exactly how to properly take care of them. Because she's too selfish. And to be fair, her mother died when she was young, and with that father, like who would she have to learn that from?
Yeah, somebody that wipes out an entire family just to get back at him. That's kind of the type of father that she had.
Most people admire Tywin and say he's badass, and he is true badass, but I wouldn't want him as a father.
Yeah, he's definitely the most impactful tactician that's out there, but not a person that you want as a friend or as a enemy for sure.
No, but it's funny. He's supposed to be a fantastic tactician, but he doesn't. He has a way of underestimating certain people. Like, he's so arrogant. He underestimated Rob at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And it got him in a lot of trouble.
Sure.
He lost Jamie because of it. And that was a huge blow to his ego, to his family, his golden son. To lose him that way, because he was, he has a lot more knowledge than Rob. A lot more knowledge. But he completely underestimated. And Tyrion, he could not see what he had in Tyrion. His negative emotions towards him completely blinded him to what he had. Do you imagine if he would have treated Tyrion as his son? If he would have used Tyrion to the maximum, if they would have been partners,
right?
If you respected him, they would have been unstoppable with Tyrion and Tywin together. Come on.
Yeah, nobody ever thinks about that, working together as a father-son, or even as father, son, and daughter. How powerful they would have been if they would have been on the same team. But when you have four spokes going in the four directions, it just pulls each other apart.
And in the end, it's Tyrion who ends up killing him, the one that he mistreated the most. If he would have treated him as a son and loved him, come on, the Lannisters, they would have been unstoppable with Tyrion and with Tywin. But God knows what's going to end up with the Lannisters in the books. I mean, if the Lannister survives, it's because Tyrion survives.
If he's a Lannister, right?
Yes, another of the theories that I rebel against. And I know I have a friend that believes very strongly that he's a Targaryen and that he's the Mad King's son, and that he's gonna ride a dragon. But I'm sorry, I don't like it. I
Well,
don't
it's
like
funny
it
you should say
purely.
that, because that's actually my next question in regards to the three heads of the dragon and the dragon riders. Is that whole concept or that theory a way for us to find who that hidden Targaryen is, or is that just because it's part of the story that George wants to tell from, Aegon and the conquest when they made the sigil?
You know, I've had a lot of conflicting thoughts about it, mainly because you keep discovering things and people keep giving a lot of arguments. And in the end, I just, as most things, I go through them emotionally. In the end, he will prove me right or wrong, and it's George's story. But right now, until I have the story, I'll go what emotionally for me feels right. And one of the things that I like is how, you know, uh, how characters in the end always, get what kind of they deserve. And I like the idea of Tyrion being a Lannister. I like the idea that the one son that was truly like him, that was truly the one that should have been his heir in every single sense.
Hmm.
The only thing he didn't have was beauty. And that's superficial. We grow old and eventually grow ugly. A 97%, 90 something year old person is going to be ugly. It's not going to be our ideal of beauty. It's a different kind of beauty.
Hmm.
He had everything else except that. And he treated him terribly. And I like the idea that in the end, he causes his own destruction with his own son. If he was the Mad King's son, then in the end, it would have been like a thing that, yes, he got the idea that it was not his son and that he was sort of the enemy. And it doesn't have the same impact for me emotionally if he's not really his son, which is why I don't like the theory. I also don't like the theory of Tyrion getting on top of a dragon, mainly because I love how George shows that you don't have to be all powerful, like to be a huge swordsman or whatever. That there's a lot of facets to that can be helpful in ruling or being part of a family. Tyrion doesn't have to be strong. He doesn't have to ride a dragon to be incredible, to be a ruler, to be a hand of the king, or to even be a king. He doesn't need that. There's other people that can do the heavy lifting. And if you put him on a dragon, it takes that away. Then he's not the brain. He's the guy who can ride in a dragon and take make a city, you know, just declare that they're not going to fight. Take the city just by that, and it takes the impact away, in my opinion.
I just want to say hi to Don Willie. He just joined us. The Dawn of Ice and Fire. Love the new
Hello,
channel.
Don.
Thanks for
I
being
like
here.
I like the change of the name that he's put. It looks
Yeah.
nice. So that's why I don't like Tyrion to be. I understand that a lot of people love the idea of Tyrion riding a dragon, but that's the reason why I don't like it. It's one of the reasons why I didn't like the. I'm convinced by now that Aegon is not the real Aegon. I've heard too many people argue, and I've reread it too much, and it makes too much sense for him not to be one of the Blackfires. But I always wanted him to be the real Aegon, mainly because I loved the idea that Tywin had gone through all of that effort and had done something so reprehensible for it not to work, and for him to have survived and come back and take what was his from the Lannisters. I like the idea of, if you've done something horrible that you should never do, there's no excuse to kill children. I don't care how
Right.
harsh the world is. I don't believe in that. So I like the idea that it did not work and that it might have come back to bite them in the ass. But I am quite convinced by now that yes, he's probably a Blackfire.
So do you think?
Well.
Sorry. Do you think that in regards to him being, or the three heads, foreshadowing the fact that we're going to find a hidden Targaryen, do you think that's what George is after?
Well, I think that the hidden Targaryens gonna be John. I think that's the one that they're gonna find. And
Right.
technically, the Blackfire is also a Targaryen that comes from a bastard line,
Sure.
but still a Targaryen. So he can still ride a dragon. He still has the blood.
We still have a third though that we still have to find, right?
Well, but Danny is one.
Mm-hmm.
He could, the idea that he could be, I don't think he does it. He knows that he's a Blackfire. I don't think he knows. So they could be those three, and you know how he does it sometimes when he suddenly reveals something and then everything goes to hell. Something that looks like an alliance, and Danny right now, Danny's will be unbeatable with three dragons. But if she
True.
suddenly loses a dragon and another fight with dragons, one against the other, that may even the odds.
Very true. Very, very true. So we might not get a third rider, is what you're saying, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we might get a third rider, but not an actual Targaryen, a Blackfire.
Oh, that's going to be a little bit of a twist, isn't it?
Aegon, that
Yeah,
might, for all apparent purposes, they believe is a Targaryen, and might eventually be revealed as a Blackfire. And well, dragon against dragon, that would be fun to watch.
You mean Aegon, what we call Fagon?
Yes.
Okay, so are you of the opinion that he's Illyrio's son? Sorry, I didn't mean to make it so hard.
No, it's not. It's not hard. It's just that it's a theory that I can admit is possible, but that I don't like. When you're beginning, you're like, no, I don't like this. So you don't hear the entire theory, and then you keep hearing it, and you're like, okay, it makes sense, but you don't want to admit it's true.
You want to believe the evidence is tainted, right?
Yes.
So we'll skip to the next question. Can you give us, for those that don't know, your top 5 characters in the story?
Okay, top 5. Ned Stark. Ned Stark is the one that is clear. I love him, and I was so sad when he died.
Mm-hmm.
Arya Stark. I love her. I love her. I absolutely love her. She better survive until the very end. Oberyn Martell. I love Oberyn. He appeared like for 5 seconds in the books and through the POV of some other people, but it's just, I loved him. I was like, then it gets tricky because there's so many of them, and it's just hard to pick just 2. Okay, those 3 I know 100% for certain. Now, Tyrion, I'm gonna add. Although he's hard. The last book, his pity party, his
his 400-page pity party.
Yes, it drove me a bit nuts.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, come on, get over yourself. Your life sucks. Do something with it. It drove me a bit. I understand it, but a part of me was like, then, just choosing 1/5. That was hard. That was very, very hard. Oh. No, if I say that one, I'm gonna get hell.
No, I mean, you could have a favorite character like Brendan Rivers is one of mine, and he's so complicated, So it might not be just because he's a good person, like Ned, which is an obvious choice. It could be someone that's Littlefinger or someone like that.
Okay, I'm gonna get hell by Brienne.
Nice, good choice. That's actually a really solid choice. I wouldn't be ashamed of that at all.
I'm gonna get hell from James. I'm gonna get hell from Jerry.
Well, what do they know?
But I like that she, when she's giving her loyalty to someone, she'll stick to it no matter how difficult the journey is, and she's capable of empathizing with other people. And with Jamie, she grew to care for Jamie, but that didn't stop her from her mission. It didn't stop her from still doing what she had to do.
Right. Yeah, I think Jerry saying that, Brienne's a criminal. We'll talk about that on Thursday night. But on when you're talking
Hated
about him,
murder. Brienne, my most hated.
no, Biotic, I couldn't disagree more. I think because she was loyal to Renly from the very beginning, because of where she lives and her experience with Renly, makes her no less of a criminal than someone like the Umbers with the Starks, or the Glovers, or the Mormonts. They're all loyal to the North, and so her being loyal to Renly is no different, in my opinion, especially when you have no real continuity in the crown. If Stannis would have manned up and gone to King's Landing after Robert died and said that he is the king, then great. But there was no proven.
Davos. Yes, Davos is also one of very good Thunderclap.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's also there. I can stick to Brienne / Davos. I'm cheating. I'm taking the Jerry way out.
You're gonna put two movies in one place, yeah. Oh, my top
But I
five,
agree with you.
top six.
And even if she is a criminal, we're talking a world of criminals and where the law is crazy.
Sure.
And, in a world in which everything is turbulent, when there's war everywhere, what I think about is, who would I want having my back? And I would want someone like Brienne, someone then that once they say that they're loyal to me, that they will stay loyal to me. Even if she gave, I'm not a fan of Renly, and I don't think that what he did was right. But he was kind to a lonely girl that had never had any kindness in her life.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave her loyalty to him, and she stuck with it. I admire that. I admire that, in a world in which loyalties keep changing. How many loyalties have changed in this book? I can't even keep track anymore.
Right.
But you always know where Brienne will stand. And I admire that. I honestly think I would have preferred it if her loyalty was probably to Stannis. But George is never gonna make things easy in this book.
Right, exactly. And I think that's one of the things that we'll get to in another question, but I agree. I think that line that the Queen of Thorns says when she first sees Brienne, how singular, was just amazing, because it's just so true. So I wanted to go to Brynden Rivers, if we can, Bloodraven. As you know, he's in the weirwood tree, and it's believed because he's a green seer is why he's there. And we know a lot about warging and green seeing, skin changing, etc. But why do you think green seeing is required to sit there? Is it because of the third eye, or is it because of his ability to see things outside of what they are?
That's a very, very good question. And the thing about Brynden Rivers is that he's one of the characters that, if you have to ask one character in which I want to know more of, that would be him. Because we know very, very little. Like, we know some things of his history before he went to the tree, but there's like how many years in between that we have no idea of anything. And he did prove that in the past that he was capable of a lot of things, a lot of very questionable things. So the question also is, is it required? Like, we don't even know how he got there. It might not be required. Maybe he's not even there willingly. He's supposed to be stuck there.
Yeah, it's true. The Children of the Forest could have captured him on a ranging when he was with the Night's Watch and put him there, tied him to the tree, etc., and found that he was able to communicate with the werewoods through that way. We don't know.
We're not even certain, because there's a lot of theories that he's evil. And, well, I don't like the idea, because that means that Bran might be being taught very questionable things, and I don't like the idea of Starks going evil. I don't like it, even if I have a few Hyped Watch members who believe it deeply.
No, I've actually been thinking about that a lot in regards to where this whole Stark thing is going, because we have been told that there is only gray, shades of gray, and we know that Ned has said things and made promises and um, not been the honorable person that everybody thinks he is, especially with lying about his betraying Robert, etc., which is the most obvious one. Even though it could be justified, it's still a lie regardless. So I definitely agree that whole thing with the Starks going one way or the other is really important towards the end of the story. As a matter of fact, I came up with a theory of my own just yesterday, thinking about that, and it's the fact that we get a lot of the stories where different members of houses are either gay or bisexual, and I'm thinking Ned might have had a relationship with, and this is real tinfoil, Howland Reed, and that's why when Howland finds out that Ned was killed, that he cried, even though it's been 20 years since their relationship, because they never could figure out why he spent the night in Ned's tent at Harrenhal and that whole thing. But I'll have to hammer that one out a little bit more.
Wow, I've never ever heard that. Congratulations. You've told me one that it's not even close to. Wow, I know that was, and that's actually interesting. That's actually completely new, and because there's also the mystery of what the hell has been Howland Reed doing.
Exactly.
Like, we hear a lot of him from other people and from the past, but where the hell is he? And if he was so close to Ned,
Yeah.
Why didn't he help Rob? Why haven't we seen him? Why hasn't he been active? But his children are helping Bran.
Right. And that's another thing too, is he wouldn't share Robert's rebellion with Jojen because of that, exposure to his feelings for Ned.
Oh, that's very, very interesting.
I work with a lot of people that, or I should say, I used to work with a lot of people that had been married and had children, and then decided, just to come out of the closet and be in a gay relationship or a lesbian relationship. And it always puzzled me how that could happen. But in this particular case, George has done a great job in exposing different people's lifestyle in a way that in the medieval times you just couldn't do.
Well, if you did, it was very, very dangerous to your health.
Exactly. To your neck.
Very, very dangerous to your health.
Very true.
Well, and even then they keep it, unless it's Dorne, it's very, very frowned upon. They try to keep it very under wraps.
Yeah, one of the things I'm going to talk about with Jerry is that when I was reading the books, I never ever expected Renly to be gay, and it's not the most mind-blowing thing, but the way it was written with him, desiring Marjorie when Robert was thinking about getting rid of Cersei and marrying Marjorie, I just thought it was absolutely incredible. So when I saw that in the show, I just was absolutely shocked.
Yeah, they didn't really try to keep it hidden in the show.
No, no, just the opposite.
They made it quite obvious, yes. Yeah, they hint about it a lot, even in the outside, not in a way, but I do like it. I do like it how they kept it,
So in regards to the characters, when you're reading through them, which one did you want to die the most?
Peter Baelish.
Wow.
As
Just
you can
because
see,
of
I
his
didn't even have to
betrayal
think
of
about
Ned?
it. I didn't even have to think about that one.
No.
I hate Baelish.
Okay.
I hate him. He betrayed Ned. He's the one character that is the most self-serving, he's just, there's nothing I can, because there's a lot of characters that I hate, but they're not smart like Baelish. Like, I want Baelish to die because he's the one that that is truly terrifying in a way. Like, there's some other bad guys that, like, Tywin. There's, he wants to protect the family line, his family, his seat. He has people that are depending on him. So yes, he's vicious, but there's something to, there's something to him. He loved his wife. He, in his own way, loves Jaime and kind of loves Cersei as well. That just part of him just died. But you can see that there's just something broken, and that's what caused him. That horrible Bolton bastard, he's too evil that he's not going to end up dead in a horrible way. And while he's done a lot of horrible things, in the large scale of things, he's not smart enough to really keep the North forever. There's no chance. He's not that smart. And he's got too many enemies. And like that, there are many other bad guys. Cersei, she's not smart enough that she's gonna stay on the throne. There's no way. Or the Faith. But Baelish is the one that is capable of manipulating everyone to do his bidding and to do. Come on, we don't even know how far his manipulations go, and there's nothing to him. There's no one that he cares about. And whatever you say about Kat, he was obsessed with her. There's a difference between love and obsession. And if not, he wouldn't be confusing Sansa with her. That's not love. That's infatuation. That's obsession. That's a desire of property. He saw Kat as the idea of what he wanted: to be powerful, to be rich, and have a beautiful wife. And he put like those fantasies in Kat and became obsessed with her. But that's not love.
Very true.
There's nothing about him that is redeemable, and he's way too dangerous. So I need him dead, now.
So do you think he was singularly responsible for Ned's downfall?
Well, I believe that Ned was not particularly suited for what he was doing, for the city that he was in, for the machinations that she was doing. But had it not been for Baelish's specific intervention, he would have lived. He would have, they would have taken his titles, his everything, his whatever, and God knows what would have happened. He would have maybe gone to a wall and joined Jon, or maybe they would have caught him before he went to the north, to the wall, and maybe he would have joined Robb, or he would have been kept a prisoner, but he wouldn't have died. He wouldn't have died. Varys didn't want that because he might need the Starks in the future. He's always thinking about the possibilities. He knows the Starks are power hungry. He knows the Starks have no desire for the throne and that they want peace.
Right.
So they could be dealt with in the future. They're one of the houses that he knows that he could, he could come to a deal.
That's why he was trying to get him on his side, and make him trust him.
Exactly. The North knelt when the Targaryens came because they wanted to protect their people. So their people. So why would you not want them as an ally? Unless you kill him and start the fucking war and enrage them all. Cersei's also too smart. She didn't want the war. Joffrey is the only one who was an idiot enough to fall for that manipulation, but he needed someone to be prodded. And Baelish ensured that. And just for that, I want him dead.
Well, all good points. Wanted to give a special shout out to Golden Girls of Westeros. If any of you are not subscribed to their channel, make sure you go check them out. You've got Marie Hill, of course, Old Nan on Game of Thrones. Steffi's on there, Hiking with Steffi, who's usually in the comments section. And then, of course, Lady Ashley from The Iron Underneath. Been doing a great job, and I hope you continued success. Just really enjoyed your video last night as well. So getting back to the story, we were talking in the beginning about Beauty and the Beast and how just one simple connection, love connection between something that you possibly cannot actually fathom, and the young girl with the Beast, would fix everything in regards to all the people in the castle and bring the Beast back to normal, and everybody would be happy. That doesn't happen in Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire.
No.
Let's say if you were asked by George R.R. Martin to write this story, would you make it as painful as it is to make it a great story, or would you want it to be Gendry and Arya find a way to be together, and Gendry's a Baratheon and they live happily ever after?
For one, I've never been a fan of the Gendry-Arya pairing.
Okay, you can write the story however you want, but you know what I'm saying?
Arya's. I've actually enjoyed Arya's journey, not in the show. They kind of screwed it up in the show, but I like her journey in the books. And I actually like, one of the things that I like about this world is that it's very diverse. Sometimes you need a happy feel movie because you've had a crappy day and you need to be lifted up and to see that not everything is crap. But it's also good to also see, the other stuff, the complicated, the complex, the dark, that is the world is capable of. My books are very diverse. Sometimes I go and I read Game of Thrones, but sometimes I'm having a horrible day and I don't want to go anywhere near those books, and I'll go see Disney. He's giving us one type of thing that and they're very well written. I would sometimes, the extreme cruelty, I will dial it down a little bit. I think that sometimes he goes way too far. I know the world is crap. I don't need 1,000 descriptions of rape and abuse. That sometimes it just, my sensibility as a woman, sometimes it's very hard. How many I remember when I was reading The Mountain, I don't even remember which chapter. I just remember the mountain with a bunch of his thugs in an inn or something. They start harassing some girl, and the father asks them, please to leave her alone. And instead he rapes her and makes all of his men rape her. And it was just a horrible scene that wasn't really necessary. We already knew that the mountain was a monster. We already knew that he'd done unfathomable things. I didn't need more descriptions of it. Sometimes, in that desire to really describe the world, he goes a bit too far. We've heard someone is a monster. I don't need it, to be beat up on the head with it. I already know it. I don't need a description in every single chapter of certain stuff. Sometimes he goes a bit too far.
Yeah, especially with the Red Wedding episodes like that, and Hold the Door was awful. And there's like you said, quite a few where he goes over the top. So you would water it down a little bit, but as far as the story itself, you'd pretty much keep it the same?
The story, unchanged. I really love it. It just, I don't need the descriptions of certain things.
Yeah.
He's told me that he's a monster. I don't need the detailed descriptions of what sometimes happens to some people. That's, it's just, I don't need all the details. I'm like, no, please, he's a monster. We've heard it 1,000 times before. Euron, we already know that Euron is an absolute monster. I don't need it described how he keeps those poor girls, naked and stuff. Right. It's just it's the story exactly the same. Just sometimes I would edit the extra cruelty that I don't believe is necessary.
Take out a few verbs and adverbs.
Yes.
A few sentences. So we talked about Renly a little bit. I didn't realize you weren't a Renly fan. And I assume it's because of his trying to fight Stannis. Why do you think he was actually a significant part of this story?
Well, for one, it would have been too easy for Stannis to take over. He needed, we needed to know more about Stannis and about who he is as a character. And Renly shows a lot of things about Stannis, and more importantly, how a lot of things have been, Stannis is the clear choice, after his brother. But for some reason, he doesn't have backing from anyone. Like, very few people back Stannis. And, you're like, why not? He's a commander. He's a leader. He trashed the Greyjoys, Victorian Greyjoy. He smashed them when the battle against the Greyjoys. You're like, why not? He's a clear choice. But you needed to see what, Stannis is a man that has, for some point, always been overlooked over his older, handsome, charming brother. And we needed some, and Renly, proves the idea that even he believes that even the younger brother who has no battle strategy or whatever believes that he can go over Stannis when all the logic says that he shouldn't. I'm not a huge against Renly. I'm a huge against Robert, because I believe that the core of all of this was Robert. I think that Renly was spoiled. I think that Renly was given everything that Stannis should have been given, and it became a trend. Everything came to Renly. Everything came easy to Renly, and everything was given to Renly. And eventually, people believe that. If everything just comes to you, everything is given to you, then you believe that, well, that's how it's supposed to be. What would make him believe that, he could go over Stannis? And it's that Robert encouraged that. And we needed to get to know more of Stannis, because when Renly dies, remember when he says that he would regret it, that he was sad, it's the first moment of real humanity that we see from Stannis. So that's why Renly had to be, and also that's how we lose the Tyrells, and how the Tyrells join the Lannisters. It's there that, it's
Starts
how
their
they
downfall.
added all of that. So Renly was necessary, not only as a challenge for Stannis, but as a way to introduce the Tyrells. And to see the damage that Robert had done, not only to the throne, but to everything, his family, his brothers, and really how bad of a king he was, that the fact that when he died, chaos erupted. Like, seriously, he dies and everything goes to freaking hell.
Yeah. He did a good job with Loras, but that was about it, right?
He was, God, what a disaster was Robert as a king.
So Martin adds a ton of details about this book, but food, hair color, eye color, all of the lineages. When you were reading this, was that part of the story, like a hindrance to you getting the story, or was it something that really added to your enjoyment of continuing to read?
I'm going to admit I'm a bit of a terrible reader in the first go. I read very fast, and I'm kind of like those that I kind of read a sentence, and the first words, and I kind of like read, like you see me read, and I read very, very fast. And my eyes completely skip over those details. Like in the first, like at the beginning, I get those details, but when I go into a story and I love it, I want to know what happens. So I speed read through the whole thing, and those details just completely fly over my head, which is why I need the rereads, because the rereads force me to slowly read and capture all of the details. If not, there's a lot of details that just filter, because then it won't allow me to go at the speed that I want, because I need to know more.
Right.
I'm a terrible first reader. I need to reread stuff, because if not, all those details I remember I was reading, I don't know, it was one of the books, and I was convinced that our character looked specific way, and when I reread it slowly, I'm like, oh my God, he doesn't look like that at all. I'd read it so fast that the first descriptions of him had just completely gone over my head, and that was because I knew all of the plot points, but the descriptions had completely gone over my head, and for some reason, the character felt like someone or another character that I remembered. So I caught the description of the other one, and that's how I thought he looked like until I reread it. I'm like, oh my god, that's so embarrassing. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
but there's, like you said, there's so much detail that by the time you start reading and you end reading, it could be a totally different book.
Yeah, so I'm a terrible first reader.
So Septuagint Sapphires with the Baratheon sigil says, who wrote the pink letter? Mance, Stannis, or was it someone else?
Oh god. I hate this freaking theory. It's gotten to the point that I have no idea. Okay, I'll confess. I don't know. I started thinking that it was Ramsay, then I was like, no, Stannis, then and just I believe that Stannis is still alive. I believe it completely. So I don't believe that Stannis is dead. So I believe that if he's
You're talking
writing,
about in the show?
no, in the books.
Oh yeah, definitely.
In the books. And he was like, Stannis is dead. I've smashed his army. And I believe that's full of bullshit. So if it is the bastard who's lying through his teeth, if it's Stannis, I don't believe it's Stannis because it doesn't make sense to me logical that he would say that. So I don't think it's Stannis at all. And honestly, I've heard all the theories, and I've backed one thing or another to the point that they're all entire mess to me. And I'll just go with my gut, and I think it's the bastard. I think it's the bastard. I think that the battle has not happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I don't know why, but for some reason, he's a crazy bastard.
That's where it came from, right?
He's a crazy psycho bastard, and I believe that he's just trying to cause trouble or cause problems or just something. Because I've heard all the theories, and by now it's just I don't think it's Stannis. That I know for certain. And I don't think he's dead. So, and I don't know why the other one would do it. He depends on Melisandre I don't know. I've got to admit that's one of the theories that just has my mind in a twist. And I'm not 100% sure. But I'll go with Ramsay.
I used to follow what Tony Teflon said in regards to the pink letter from day one. But then I'm a subscriber to Elio Garcia's channel from Westeros.org, and him and Linda Antonsen said that they've never thought it was anyone else but Ramsay, just because of the facts of the evidence of the letter, what was in the letter, and how it was written, and never questioned it ever, in their studies. And I would think if anyone would know some details like that, it would be Elio, because he's just so close to George that I think it would have come up in a conversation.
I've got to admit that it wasn't until I heard the theories that I started actually doubting.
Mm-hmm.
In my first read, I didn't question it at all. It wasn't one of the things that I'm like, maybe. I didn't. I just thought he was full of bullshit.
Right.
Because it's Ramsay and he likes to cause trouble and he's a rabid mad dog.
Just for clarification, Ramsay's full of bullshit, right?
Yes.
Not Tony Teflon.
No, Ramsay. I think Ramsay's just, he needs to be put down.
Yes, couldn't agree with you more. Right after
I think Stannis is going to do it. Yes, they both need to die.
So Thunderclap has a question. If Jon Snow had his own sigil, what would it be?
Hmm. What would it be? I I would imagine something simple. For me, it would be Ghost, Ghost, like his direwolf, all white with a back black. Symbolizing white like snow of who he is, and black because he's a black brother, and
Mm,
dar and Ghost because it means so much to him. That's how it would be, simple and just very him.
how perfect. With the black, I like the black background just to set off Ghost being white. I think that's perfect. Very similar to Blood Raven's white tree, the werewood tree with the black ravens. I think that's an interesting coincidence.
Because even if he is a secret Targaryen, he feels like a Stark. In everything that he does, he wants to be so much like Ned. He wants to be a Stark so much.
True.
There's nothing, the characteristics that we've heard about Targaryens, about being impulsive and the rages and the a lot of the things that we've heard, I don't see them in Jon. I see a lot of the things that I saw in Ned. And I think she wants to, if you would ask him whether he wanted to be a Targaryen or a Stark, I think he'd say Stark.
It's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I like the idea that you cannot choose, you cannot choose where you're born, like who you're born from, but you can choose what kind of person you are. And he is half Stark, half Targaryen, so he can choose which one he wants to be, one or the other.
Yeah, that's very true. I always thought it was interesting with him in regards to Kit Harington having to dye his hair black for the show, even though his natural color was brown, which was like a stark color as far as Ned goes, and yet he's always compared to Ned. I just thought that was an interesting comparison. In regards to the last question that I'm going to ask from my questions was, Maester Aemon was at the Wall, obviously, when Jon went there to serve with the Night's Watch. Do you think that was just a coincidence that he was a Targaryen, because that family had to be represented at the Wall, or do you think it was important that him, because he was in line of being a king and passed up the crown to serve? Do you think that was important?
Well, I think Master Aemon, he's a very nice character that shows a lot of, it's funny because sometimes the people that are willing to not take the throne are the ones who really should be on the throne, because they're the ones who are not power hungry and are, like, for example, I would think that Master Aemon would have been a good king.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it also shows, a different aspect to Targaryens. We see a lot of Targaryens, the Targaryens originally started when they decided that that little island was just not enough for them and that they wanted more. They're kind of greedy. They're like, we want all the 7 kingdoms because we believe that we should have them. And they just kind of sort of took it. And we've heard a lot of stories of, the Dance of the Dragons, the story that he wrote, the one that I couldn't control myself and I read. And it's Targaryens against Targaryens, and it's then Dany, even if she she starts as more submissive and more quiet underneath her brother because her brother's kind of crazy,
Mm-hmm.
and we saw a lot of crazy stuff with Viserys. She grows up fast, and she allows him to be killed in front of her. And she does a lot of other stuff that is kind of questionable, but she's like in charge and she's like, they're mine. And we see a completely different aspect to the Targaryens with Master Aemon. A man that was kind, that is willing to give everything to serve the realm because, he's stuck in an area which is frigid cold. They don't get anything in return. And they don't even have the prestige anymore of being, it's falling into decay. You look what the Southerners think of the wall. That's where the criminals are sent by now. Very few people actually volunteer to go to the wall, and those who do are those who are bastards or very poor, or a few Northerners, or from the Vale, as we saw. So we see it completely, and this is just an idea, but Jon is a Targaryen. I believe it in the book, that it's in the books, also not only in the show. And I think that's going to be a bit hard for Jon to, someone who's wanted to be a Stark so much, suddenly realizing that he's not even going to be able to, everyone, because if Jon ever gets on top of the dragon, no one's going to see him as a Stark. Everyone's going to see him as a Targaryen. So he's not even going to get that wish of thinking at least he's a Stark bastard. I think maybe Aemon is there for him to have a positive link to the Targaryens. He doesn't know Daenerys Targaryen. Daenerys Targaryen is just gonna come like an invading force again.
Total stranger, right?
With dragons and ex-slaves and Dothraki. And she's gonna be very, he might not be very open to suddenly becoming part of the family. Aemon might be a good, he had very fond thoughts of Aemon. They got along well. He respected him. And to be linked to Dany means to also be linked to Aemon. Even if he's passed, he's left that kindness, that goodness, that being part of this family is not just of these conquerors, strangers. He had that person that he connected with, that he was family even if he didn't know it. So that might make it easier for him to accept the truth later on.
Very true. Very good points. Very good points. And I honestly, I didn't think about that when I was asking that question, because there's so much interlacing that George does in this story, and combining characters, like Podrick Payne and Brienne and the Hound and Arya. It just brings so much of the story to life. So yeah, I just really like that connection between him and Aemon when they're at the wall.
I really like Aemon. He's one of my top 10 characters.
Got to move him up a little, right? Get him in the top 5.
There's so many. There's so many. I already missed Davos, and I love Davos.
Yeah. I always said Davos is the only good quality of Stannis.
Davos is like a rare character that he never loses his way, no matter how hard things get.
Winter Design has a question, if that's okay. Don't you think the character similarities between Jon and Rhaegar? Do you think there are similarities between Jon and Rhaegar? I think there's more not than there are, but what do you think?
Yeah, but there is, the Rhaegar was also described as someone who was silent and who thought deeply, more than just action. And Jon also has that, I don't know, brooding thing. Rhaegar was someone who was, or the way he's described is that he was silent and just sometimes kind of depressed and just a bit of emo, and Jon has that a bit.
I always got the impression that Rhaegar liked to be with the people, like Egg from Duncan Egg, and was much more of a interactor than he was an emo. Especially with the harp, where he would sing.
Yes, the story. Yeah.
I don't see Jon with a harp.
No. No, I don't, or I don't see Jon singing either. Or writing poetry.
JD has to go. I hope I didn't miss him, but thanks for being on, JD. Appreciate it.
Bye, JD.
So I always ask if you have any questions for me before we go, because I want to make sure that I haven't hogged all the time there. Do you have any questions that you want to ask for me, or maybe somebody in the chat?
Well, one of the things that I always like to know is how you got started into this whole, because it's not just books. Once you start, then there's the theory, there's the communities, there's everything. So I would like to know the first, how you entered this world. Like I started with the show. The show made me aware of the books, and then I went to the books. But I like to know that first story of what brought you into these books and what captivated you that you said, "Ooh, I'm into this."
Yeah, I was a big Lord of the Rings fan before, and I just loved the Sean Bean character, Boromir. And I worked for a cable company at the time, and we had a HBO representative that came around, and Sharon would show us novellas and parts of stories that are coming up. And about 6 months before the show started, we got to see some clips, and it was just like, okay, I'm in. And then when the first episode aired, I had already read Game of Thrones and started. I think it was on Clash, and so I had to wait until Dragons came out. But other than that, it was just, um, yeah, it was just an immediate acceptance. And then during the first season, I started watching Comic Girl 19. I think she was the only one that did videos, and then obviously found Tony Teflon and Kraken, and that was it.
And favorite characters?
Yeah, male character is definitely going to be Robb Stark. I'm the oldest son, of four boys, so definitely can relate to that part of it. And then Arya for female, and then overall characters is now Bloodraven. I just am fascinated by his character.
Really, what specifically about Bloodraven? The mystery of him, or
Well, the fact that he was in the story from the beginning to the end, that's a pretty huge time frame. And he was referenced in the Duncan Egg Tales very mysteriously. He's a character that everybody wanted to know more about, and he had influence over the crown, so that's always important. And then when you find out later that he was, so important to the council, that I just think that he had a great influence. And the fact that he's willing to not necessarily disobey the king, but do things that were on his own to protect the realm was at his own peril, was impactful. And then, yeah, it's just pretty cool.
yeah, he's an
Pretty cool
interesting
story.
character because now he's going to be teaching Bran, and they might be able to manipulate stuff. And as someone who's been that close to the throne and who's been in such positions of power, he has a lot of knowledge of how things work and how people work, and about, he has experience, a lot of experience that a lot of people don't have. So God knows what he's going to teach that poor kid.
Thunderclap asked, what does AU pack mule mean? AU is just the periodic table for gold, the golden pack mule, and that's just for fun, just a fun name. Sorry.
Oh, I would have never guessed that's what AU came from.
Yeah, I like to do gold prospecting, and so being out there and in nature is just a lot of fun. So that's how that got started.
You're in a late time zone, so where exactly there you live?
I'm sorry, Tinker, could you say that again?
You're from you have the LA time zone, so are you living in California or?
Seattle, Washington.
Ah,
Yeah, north of LA, about 12 hours.
yeah, a lot. I lived in LA,
Hopefully,
and Seattle's in the very, very north of there.
yeah, hopefully I'll be visiting LA soon. My daughter auditioned for Disneyland as a dancer. She's a professional dancer, so hopefully she'll be working there.
Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Hopefully she'll get it. LA, it's an interesting city, not a beautiful city.
Not my favorite.
No, not my favorite at all, especially not of the States. And I have to see Seattle. Seattle is it's on the list of cities that I still have to visit in the States.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. Love the city. It's a little bit in a transition right now because we're fighting the whole. This is a place where people can come and feel accepted and not have too much discrimination. And yet, the federal funding for the city is going to start diminishing because of Donald Trump's plan. So I hope it doesn't go too downhill too fast, but we'll see.
Yes, things coming from there sound a bit tense. And it's interesting because I've been trying to find a way to go back to the States. I miss it.
Yeah, I heard that on your Q&A, and I was really interested in finding out a little bit more about what it was that you were coming to LA for, but we'll find out soon enough, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully everything will go smoothly and hopefully things will calm down around there.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Anything in Washington State, Oregon State, and California, because we're mostly Democratic, and against everything Donald Trump stands for, as a whole, a lot of the funding is going to go down, and it's just going to be tough going for a while. So hopefully we'll get that changed.
Good luck. Good luck.
Well, so what questions do you have? Did you say you had any or no?
Well, I'm curious. It's one of the things that I like to know is, how do you think it's going to end?
Well, I'll give you another theory that I have. You know that George commissioned a blue version of Mel, as opposed to the red version. And I think the blue version is actually Arya. Arya will marry the Night's King in order to make that alliance and allow the Night's King to go back to the land of always winter and leave everybody alone. And that'll satisfy the pact, and that will be the bittersweet ending.
So you think Arya's going to go with the king to the land of always winter?
Yes.
Oh God, I hope you're wrong.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's true, is because it's something that I would feel terrible about, and that's one of the things that is so consistent with this story, is you find that when he writes these sad parts, that it comes true.
Oh, not Arya. She's one of my favorites, and I cannot see her. She's the one character that if you told me who would she marry, I cannot see her marrying. I think that's why I don't like the whole Arya Gendry pairing.
Right.
You have other characters that are, Sansa will get married, Marjorie will get married, others.
I think Sansa will die.
You don't have a good future for my Starks, do you?
Well, here's one of the reasons why I think that is Arya, or Maisie Williams, and Sophie Turner both had tattoos where they were, when they were hired, the date they were hired. I don't know if you know that, but it's just a simple date tattoo. And they did it right after season 6 ended, when they were starting the season 7. And so I think they know there's an end, and when the end happens, that's when they'll put the other dates of the tattoo on there.
Oh God. Oof. And I hope they don't follow them through in the show, because there's like none left in the show, because they've also killed Rickon, which I don't believe is going to die in the books. And Bran's crippled, and
Right.
Jon's not actually a Stark, and oh God. I want a few of my Starks to still live, because there has to be a Stark in Winterfell. Why do you think there has to be a Stark in Winterfell? We've always heard.
I think it has to do with the blood of them versus the being the same as the others coming from the Stark lineage, and that's the reason why it's safe there at Winterfell, is because of the blood.
God, we need to know these answers soon. He has to start writing, like.
Do you believe that the crypts of Winterfell go to the caves that are in the north of the wall? The story of the wildlings that.
I don't know, but I would love it if it was true. Like I would. The thing is that why wouldn't have been discovered earlier? Like the crypts must be big, but I don't know. I think the crypts is like the perfect place to like play like hide and seek and all those kind of stuff. Like how would it have not been discovered before?
Yeah, I think the crypts are blocked off, if I'm not mistaken, on the lower levels, because there's, only the top third is what we have exposed to.
Yeah, but no one really. Kids don't really actually follow through this.
That's true.
And I think there have been other. Well, it is possible, but the other stuff is the distance. Like the distance is enormous in the north. Like it's huge. And to make a tunnel that long in those times,
Pretty tough, huh?
it's not something easy. Nowadays it's easy to do stuff. We've got technology and we've got machines that will do it for us.
True.
Those,
You know all about that, don't you?
but in those days, everything was hard to do. And you needed a lot of people to do this kind of stuff. And that size of a tunnel, like I don't know how big it actually is. Like I don't think he ever actually does. He actually ever mention like leagues or miles or stuff? Do we actually
To
know
get
how
to the
big
wall from
Westeros is?
Winterfell?
Yes, from Winterfell to the north, or anything in general.
Yeah, I think that the wall is measured because of the time travel for Tyrion and Jon when they go to the wall. It's mentioned there.
It's a long way, and I find it hard that anything could be done on that scale and kept secret.
True.
Or one person to do it. Like you'd need people to do something on that scale.
Yeah, especially with old Nan telling her stories, right?
Yes. And also, I think Old Nan's tales, like, I think that most of it is non-true, but
Sure.
they might be hinting towards something else. But we'll figure out eventually. I don't think we'll figure out yet. I think there's a lot of things that we won't figure out until we actually read it.
Yeah, we definitely think the blue-eyed giant named Macumber is not correct, right?
No, I don't think we believe that.
Oh,
And just one more thing that I have to know.
sure.
Do you believe that Euron Greyjoy will be able to take one of the dragons?
With the horn, yes.
Yes. Damn it. Another one. Everyone believes so. But I don't want to believe.
I think the reason is because the Robert Strong obviously is dead, and he will be the only one that has the ability to blow the horn. And because of his size and everything, he'll be able to blow it where it'll, be no problem for them to hear. Because you have to have somebody that's undead to really blow that and live or continue going on. Correct? That horn would burn the lungs out of the people that have already blown it. So yeah, he would be the perfect candidate for that.
God, everyone keeps saying that Euron's gonna get his hands on one of the dragons, but I just don't want it. He's my second most hated character after Baelish, and in the direction that he's going, he might actually catch up to Baelish. He might actually catch up to Baelish with what I'm reading. Like we've seen a lot more of Baelish than of Euron.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way that he's going, and especially after the last episode, the one that we got of the
Forsaken chapter.
Yes, the damp hair.
Yeah, damp hair. Just
Hair.
damp and then hair.
Damp air. Okay.
Yep.
It's just I was like, oh God, this guy is just completely off his rockers in the dangerous kind of way, the really dangerous kind of way.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
why him and Cersei will be perfect.
crazy enough not to care about stuff, but smart enough to be able to get away with it.
For sure. Yeah,
So
his being out, throughout the world and getting knowledge from all over, just like Makaro. I think he's definitely going to be, a factor to deal with. We've had a monster pretty much every season to deal with, an enemy of the realm, starting with Robert and just moving on and getting worse and worse and worse. And last year with Ramsay, this year's got to be worse.
I think that's why Ramsay's going to die very
Oh,
soon.
sure.
Because, I think Euron is unfortunately going to become the next big bad. So we need Ramsay to die so that everything can be fixed up there in the north, or at least a certain order, so they can focus on Euron. Because it's going to take, oh boy, it's going to take quite a lot to destroy that son of a bitch. Oh, yeah.
That's one of the things I love about you is you have no punches pulled. We know exactly how you feel.
I've sort of been good at no. When I'm passionate about something, I'm just.
There you go.
And boy, am I terrified about how it's gonna end with Euron, because just.
Well, the good thing is it will end because there's a season 7, and that'll be the others will be the ultimate bad person or bad. You know what I mean?
Yes,
They'll
but
be the
anyways,
enemy.
yes, but in the show, it's just at least come on, he's sort of. What do you think about show Euron? Like, honestly.
Well, I saw him in Ben-Hur, the remake of Ben-Hur, and I really liked him in that, even though the movie wasn't that great. But the writing for all of the Greyjoys, I'll just lump them into the same writing as Dorne. We'll just leave it at that and move on, because to start going from there.
He's pathetic. He's pathetic. That's what he is. He's like, you're not Euron. You're like a pathetic boy band version of Euron.
Sick hat wearing. I mean, that's the only hat worse than the phrase, right? Is Euron's crown.
Oh God, what is that? That's not even a crown. It's just everything about it was just pathetic. Like, compared to the scary, freaky, creepy, my God, guy that we get in the books, we get that in the show.
Right.
It's like Dorne level. It's like show Dorne.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, all of the Greyjoys have been written poorly, except for obviously Theon, which is, but yeah, I agree with Thunderclap. Great actor, bad writing.
Yes, poor guy.
Did you see Ben-Hur? I don't know if you're.
The last Ben-Hur?
Yeah, the remake.
No, I saw the trailer and I'm like, no, thank you. I saw the first Ben-Hur. I'll stick with that.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why I did see it. Obviously, the original was outstanding, but this was as bad of a remake as the Noah and the Moses stories that they came out with.
The trailer alone just kind of gave it away, and I'm terrified about the new King Arthur. Have you seen the trailer for the new King Arthur?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, every time I go to the movies, I see more and more, and I just am intrigued. Just like I am with the DC Justice League trailers, I'm like, this looks so good. Why can't they make a movie as good as this trailer? It would be perfect, but it never happens. Never happens.
I don't even like the trailer of the new King Arthur.
Oh, because of the
well, I don't know
POV.
Why they even gave him to this director. What's the director of this? Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, that's Melisandre's husband.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know
Carrie
that.
Von Houten is, yeah.
I did not know that. Well, what I know
is
that
little ghost baby together.
Is that it is a director that destroyed Sherlock Holmes. The two Sherlock Holmes movies were not Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
He didn't action movie that he named the guy Sherlock Holmes, but there was no investigation, there was no mystery, there was no nothing. There was a lot of comedy and a lot of action scenes that had nothing to do with Sherlock Holmes, and that's what he's going to do with King Arthur. He's going to have a lot of special effects, a lot of action, a lot of maybe some comedy, a lot of drama, and he's going to call it King Arthur, but it's not actually going to be King Arthur. He like sucks the spirit and the soul of whatever he's supposed to be doing and makes it into something that it's not. And I love the King Arthur and
Sure. All the Arthurian series.
the myths and the everything. And
Yeah, if you go to Instagram and under Leave Carice Alone, that's her Instagram page, and you can see him and her together and the little shadow baby.
see, Love agrees with me. No, yes, but the show is fantastic. But that's because Guy Ritchie's nowhere near that.
Yeah, this is going to be kind of like the Robin Hood series. You know, it's going to be one of those where you can never have enough Excalibur, but you want it to be as good as the movie Excalibur. But it won't happen.
No, I'm questioning whether I'm going to even see it.
Oh, really? Wow. Well, I mean, after you wait after the first week, everybody will tell you whether it's good or not, right?
Yeah, although I can already almost see the reviews.
Then maybe we could do a review on it.
My guess is that I already know whether I'm going to like it or not.
Yeah, I'm going to guess you're going to go in and maybe have the matinee and try to get in for free.
It's just, I don't know, I'm paying for this movie. I don't know whether I want to.
Yeah, there was a question on Sunday about your 2 movies that you didn't like, and I think one of them was like, yeah, I got dragged to this movie.
Oh God, yes.
That was funny. That was such a great video. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that you did it.
I'm glad. I was like, I need to do something. It was LT's idea, so
Right.
So I'm very glad he suggested it, because it did turn out very well.
And I hope you're going to work on James Bichel's question, because that's an important question.
Yes, I think that's a question that everyone has to ask themselves.
Well, if you don't have anything else, I'm going to let you go, because I know you're up late and you had a long day, a long week so far. So
I've got a few else, but unfortunately I can't, because it's already a bit late for dinner. So I already told them that I'm going to be a bit late, so to have a little bit of time. But I actually might have to make dinner since it's been a hard day for all of us. I've been helping out a bit extra.
Nice.
So.
Well, I really do appreciate you being on. I know everybody in the chat's gonna really like this. A lot of great comments, and for any of you that are watching this later on, thanks for being here. And I'm glad that we were able to work this out. But in the meantime, I want you to all grin like a dog, wander aimlessly, and eat dessert first.
I like the dessert first.
I'm glad that you did. Thanks, Tinker. I appreciate it. You want to say goodbye to everybody?
Thank you for having me here. And thank you all of you who have been commenting and talking to us through the chat. I'm not great about keeping up, but I try to read what you've been guys saying. I hope that you've enjoyed the video. And thank you very much for being here. And thank you very much for inviting me, Pack Mule. I've had a lot of fun.
Thanks. You guys have a great day.
Bye-bye, everyone.